love movies and movie discussions, you've come to the right place. Who am I, you ask? I am The Wiz, and I'm here today with...
Kim Shactman.
Kim, how are you doing today?
Good. We're getting into the thick of the hardcore holiday season.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm there. Have you done all your Christmas shopping?
I am almost done.
So am I. I have to just withdraw money from an ATM, and then I'm good.
Oh, lame.
Yeah, all right, you know what? Like, let me tell you... With kids, you just gotta be like, what do you want? I was like,
oh, Uncle Wiz, can I have some cash? Here you go. Shut up and go away.
You're not wrong, but you're not right either. They're both
Santa
at the
Wiz.
No, they're both at the age where they want what they want, and it's better just to like, here, there you go. Because I can't give the excuse of Santa Claus.
Yeah, they're all, like, same in my family, they're all getting to that age. I must say, this year was a really tough year coming up with gifts for the 9 and 10-year-old nephews. So I think next year it's going to be like, my husband's like, okay, if you don't believe anymore, then no more gifts. Oh my God.
What?
Pretty harsh.
Wow. Oh yeah? You don't believe in Santa Claus? Well, fuck you.
Yeah.
Who else is going to give you a fucking present?
Well, you have to remember, he's Jewish, so he's just like,
okay.
I don't really fucking care anyway.
So there's an ulterior motive.
This isn't even my freaking religion. Goodbye. But anyways,
you believe this pagan fucking holiday?
I'm the only one that's keeping the spirit alive in this household.
All right. So we are here to review the 2023 comedy Barbie, starring Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, American Forever, Will Ferrell, and Simu Liu, and Michael Cera. Directed by Greta Gerwig. We've already watched a Greta Gerwig movie last week. We were kind of divisive on that, but we're gonna watch the movie that ended up making $1 billion in the box office this year. Yeah. So
I'm not surprised.
Neither am I, really. I talked about in my review of Clue about brands turning into movies. And what they usually do is that they make a standard Hollywood movie, and then they just put the brand somewhere to make it like, like, you know what I mean? Like, they just put the brand somewhere.
This one is branded to death.
Yes, it is. But what's interesting about this movie specifically, we're not going to get into criticizing it just yet, is that, yes, you're right. It is branded to death. It is all about the Barbie brand.
Yes.
But what's interesting is Barbie is a $1 billion brand. It makes the most money for Mattel. And this movie is not a celebration so much of the Barbie brand.
No.
In some ways it is. But
it isn't. Like,
yeah, which is shocking to me because most places that make their movies into brands, I'm thinking about Super Mario Brothers, Pokemon, stuff like that. They want it really...
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog, yes, absolutely. They want it safe. They want to please the fans, and they want it as accessible to a general audience as possible. Barbie isn't that. It is not that at all.
It's like the complete opposite.
Well...
I think it is I think it's the complete opposite of safe.
Depending on what you call safe.
I guess you're right. But
visually, it's... Go ahead.
Yeah, like from a brand perspective, like they were pretty smart in how they did this movie.
The thing that I am wondering about this is how Greta Gerwig convinced them to do it. I'm wondering how that happened, because any other brand, they would want a safe director who will maintain what the brand wants and has a checklist as to what it has to have in order to actually have that brand in it. In this one, it just seems like Greta Gerwig was like, I'm making this, and if you're not going to do it, then I'm out.
I'll find a different brand to do it with.
I don't think that was going to be possible with this.
Yeah.
Like, I really wonder exactly what made both parties okay with doing this. Maybe because Gerwig is such a celebrated director at this point, which she's celebrated to movie buffs like me, who is like, oh, wow, yeah. Like, but to the common public... No one knows who Greta Gerwig is until
I didn't until we watched Little Women last week.
And then I had to remind you. And I had to remind you, she did a movie you really liked, which is Lady Bird. So
right.
So she's not a household
name.
So
to the common public, she doesn't stand out. Like I just didn't realize.
Right.
Yeah.
In that case, I'm really wondering what made them be okay with Greta Gerwig actually doing this movie and doing it the way she did. I'm just really curious as to that, because it also not only makes fun of Barbie, it makes fun of the culture around Mattel and around the Barbie name. Like, it's just like, how did this get made? Like,
but yet they are profiting.
Yes, they are.
Profiting heavily.
Yes, definitely.
So that's why I'm saying, like, they were smart.
Maybe. Maybe.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're, you know, it's not just a play it safe movie, but it still has the brand on it, and it still seemed to have gone over either well or not well, and no matter what, they're making money off of it.
Yeah. Definitely.
So.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the review of Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig. Now, before we get to the review, we'll get to the plot. Basically, I don't want to even spoil the movie, but I think the best way to put this is Margot Robbie plays stereotypical Barbie.
Yes.
Blonde, skinny, happy, you know, the stereotypical way you would look at Barbie. Basically, she has an existential crisis. And her crisis leads to a portal opening up in Barbie Land, where she lives, and she has to go to the real world to solve the problem as to why it is happening. Mm-hmm. And without getting much into spoilers, that's about it that we can talk about. Is there more that we can? Yeah.
No, I agree with you there. I mean, you have to kind of leave it at that, or you're getting into spoilers for sure.
And the film goes places. So
it goes.
Yeah. So why don't we get to our 3 points? Kim, do you want to go first on your 3 points? Well, our first 2 points are pretty much alike.
Are
correct?
Similar, yeah. Our first point, we thought that it is definitely a conversational piece.
Yes.
A think piece.
Right.
For pretty much anybody. Like, and I'm talking like adults, elders, children, men, women. Like, this movie is going to make you think, and it's going to make you talk.
It's subversive in that way too, because the way that the film has been shown and the way that it has been advertised, it looks weird in a way and different, but they really went hard on the entertainment side. They were like, well, this is an entertaining, funny movie.
The way they marketed it.
Right,
yeah.
Absolutely. And when you
and
go,
also very, like, to me, when they marketed it, it was very almost like fluffy, right? It was fluffy, bubbly, kind of just like a fun
very much
movie.
So. Lots of dancing, lots of pretty colors, stuff like that. Yes,
it's
absolutely.
Barbie. Everybody loves Barbie. Like, it's just fun.
Right.
You know?
And then when you walk into it and you watch it for, let's say, after 30 minutes, you're like, whoa, this is not what I was expecting.
So 30 minutes in, I messaged Wiz and I said, what the fuck am I watching?
Yep.
That's all I have to say.
Honestly, my thought when I started watching the movie was, first off, the first 15 minutes was, oh my God, there is so much pink and girl power. I'm going to choke on this if this doesn't stop. Like, it was like, holy shit.
It made me laugh when you said that, because I was the opposite when I started watching the movie. Yeah. I was like, it's pink and girly, and it's Barbie and Ken, and it's my entire fucking childhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean? So, like, for you, it was one way, and for me, it was another. And then I feel like we kind of, like, switched our thought processes as we got further into the film, where I was like, oh, what is this? And you're like, ooh, what is this?
Yes,
like,
definitely.
So, right off the bat.
And it's funny how the film starts to bridge that gap, because it does it right away. It's like in the first 15 minutes where suddenly Barbie has a thought that she shouldn't have. Goes, it's like, whoa. And I'm like, oh, that's where the film's going. Okay.
Yeah.
What makes this film conversational, to me at least, is I think a lot of people are going to have a certain viewpoint of what this film is. And they'll have their evidence, and they'll state their opinion, and it'll be solid in their mind. But then someone else will have a complete opposite opinion. Mm-hmm. And they're going to have evidence for that. And their opinion's going to be solid too. It's a film where if you think of it going in a certain way, your opinion will be supported, but it will also be subverted. It will also be like, well, yeah, it's there, but here's the opposite, and here's why. You did a post on Facebook on this movie.
I did. And I don't mind if people want to go check it out. I did a public post, so anybody can go check it out on my Facebook, Kim Shactman, about, hey, I just watched the Barbie film, and I don't really know how I felt about it. So what are your thoughts on Barbie? And it had 52 comments.
Yes.
So, and they're very civil comments. I don't do, I don't do like shaming or, don't be mean, right? Because I will friggin' block you and delete your comment. But the people that did comment were like, they either said it was awful or they loved it, or they have mixed feelings about it.
Right.
And everything that they said, some people wrote paragraphs, some people wrote one word or a sentence. And I went through and I'm like, I kind of agree with everybody. Like some parts are kind of awful. Some parts are really good. Some parts I'm like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
And I was telling Wiz, I had a really hard time with this movie because of it being such a think piece.
I think the other thing with this movie is, as we discussed how it was marketed, people were expecting one thing and got a complete different thing.
Yes.
And a lot of audiences and people that watch movies, when they go to see a movie in a theater or they go to rent a movie, they want to know exactly what they're watching. And when they watch something and it turns out to be something completely different, most times they're upset by it.
It's kind of like a slap in the face. So for example, I watched it on a Friday night. I'm like, I had a long week at work. I want something fun. I want something bubbly. I think Barbie's going to be that for me. And then I turned it on and I was just like, this is so heavy. I was like, I have enough of this at work. So then that kind of upsets people because it's not what they're expecting. But then think about it for a day or two and you're like, okay, actually, that really wasn't that bad of a movie because of X, Y, and Z, Yeah.
So I think that's why your point and my point, which is it's a conversation movie for pretty much anyone, I think is something that works well together because when you watch it, people are going to have their opinion and they're going to talk about it, and it is strange enough to a common audience where they don't, like you said, they don't know what to think of it. And they don't know exactly where to put their finger on how they feel about it. But then it opens up certain things and conversations that happen in this. This is when the movie came out in the theaters. I saw all online what people's thoughts of it were. And there were people who were diehard feminists and were like, oh, this is a diehard feminist movie. Oh my God, it is so pro-feminist. And then there are the anti-feminist groups like, oh no, this film hates feminists. This film thinks feminism is fucking stupid.
It's both. It's so weird.
So here's my take on it, okay? Barbie is a film about having a philosophy and ideology and the damage it can do if you wholly buy into it.
Right.
I have my thoughts and philosophies on certain things, but I also recognize that there's flaws to some of them. Absolutely.
Right.
The way that this film does it is, and it's both on feminism and patriarchy.
Yes.
Barbie Land is essentially the feminist utopia of women rule the world, how great it could be. And it shows that to a certain, the women are happy, they're powerful, they're everything. But it also shows that the Kens are nothing. The Kens' only existence is to make the Barbies happy.
The Kens have been used and abused.
Exactly. Which is very similar to women before the suffragette movement.
Yes.
It shows right there that, this is what you're asking for. And it shows, it looks cool until you really think about it. And then go,
And in Barbie Land, you can almost kind of think of it as Mattel world, right? From when Barbie first came out. I don't know when, the 50s they came out?
I think it was
Barbie?
the 50s, yeah.
Yeah. And it was all about Barbie, right? And not Ken, but in a different sense. And as time evolved, Barbie got more feminine. The feminist movement kind of backed up Barbie more and more, and Ken kept becoming more and more obsolete in Mattel / Barbie Land world. So it's just very interesting. And Barbie Land versus the real world.
And then when patriarchy came to Barbie Land, it showed the exact opposite of what happens and how subjugating that is. And then you can go on to certain characters of the film. The teenager and how she feels about Barbie is also very much rooted on a specific ideology. The mother, how she feels is very much rooted. Everything, all the characters are rooted in a certain ideology and thinking to its max, to its final point. And I think that's what the film is really about. It is basically about, these are all good things to think about and to better improve the world that you are living in and are around. But if you go too far into that, this is the disaster that could happen.
And that's just anything too.
Yes, absolutely.
Everything in moderation, they always say, and
absolutely.
Yeah. So, and just even by you talking about that makes me like the movie more and more, right?
Yeah.
As I go on, again, the think piece, the conversational piece, as I go on, I'm just okay, now I'm understanding this, now I'm absorbing it, now I'm enjoying it. Whereas before I'm just oh my fucking God.
What did they do, the skipper?
Well, Wiz asked me to write down my 3 points for these podcasts, and last night I could not.
Yeah.
I said, I am speechless, and I don't know if it's a good speechless or a bad speechless. And I don't ever come across this in film. So for me, this was like a big deal.
And that's going to go into my third point. But let's get to our second points.
Let's do it.
Second point for me here, you share the same point, but I have a second point on top of it. Ryan Gosling and America Ferrera are the best performances in the movie. Now, I think we both agree that Ryan Gosling is the best in this.
Which is so funny, because you and I were talking about this, and we're like, I'm not really a big Ryan Gosling fan either.
Neither am I.
Like,
no.
I don't really like him that much. Like, I've always thought he was like an okay actor, but I didn't think he was like anything great or what. And I still don't really, but in this film, I thought he was fantastic.
Right. Like, Ryan Gosling is an actor where there's a criticism with some female actresses that can be unfair in certain aspects, but in some aspects to be fair, is that they rely very much on their looks and their sex appeal to carry their performance. I think for the most part that isn't true with a lot of women who get called that, but I think for Ryan Gosling it's true.
110%.
Because
I always say, I'm like, he's just a pretty face. Like,
he is so strikingly handsome, and he has these like gorgeous eyes to most people.
Ooh, Wiz.
Yeah. He does. He's a very attractive man. Okay?
He is very attractive.
That his performance relies on him smoldering and being quiet and being menacing. Yes. And it's those piercing eyes that really capture the performance. That's why his best performances are in movies where he does really nothing.
All I think about is La La Land.
See, I didn't like him so much in La La Land.
I didn't either, but like, he was quiet and like, but I thought he was handsome.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always going to think he's handsome. You know what I mean? But I don't think his performance is great. You know?
I think more along the lines of Drive. I think in the more along the lines of Blade Runner 2049, where he's basically a robot in that movie. I mean, he plays it really well because that's who he is.
He doesn't do anything. He's just a robot.
Right. But when I saw The Nice Guys, he has a great amount of comedic timing. The Nice Guys, if you have not seen it, is a great movie. Check it out. Yeah, you should check it out. It's with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. He's very funny in the movie. But Barbie shows this comedic side that he showed in The Nice Guys in a whole different way that I really appreciated. He plays Ken incredibly dumb.
It's perfect. It is
almost childlike.
And that's kind of like, he's a toy. He's supposed to be a toy anyway.
He's a complete himbo. He's a complete himbo. But he plays it in a way that, like, it's funny, because when most people play this character, it's annoying, but he plays it so charmingly, especially when he starts to find out how he's like, oh my god, patriarchy's awesome.
Yeah.
And a part of me is like,
that's still dumb. He's still dumb.
But it's still funny as hell.
It is. It's so funny. I'm like, good job, Gosling, on this one. Like, you nailed it. You nailed it.
And then when he wears the cowboy outfit with the fringe,
oh my god,
and it's funny because he owns it and it works so well.
It does. Whereas like because again too, like, he is handsome.
Oh yeah,
so he's handsome and he's got the build for it, and like. But also his mannerisms are humorous, like you said. Yeah. So it's like the outfit, the looks, and the humor, and the lines delivered is just like perfect timing. It's
like a complete lack of self-awareness in Ken of who he is. And he plays it to that point and plays it incredibly well.
He does.
I want to point out America Ferrera in this film, because I think a lot of people praised Margot Robbie in this film, and she's fine. I liked her in this film.
I thought she was okay, yeah.
But to me, America Ferrera is the linchpin of the film, is the person where I think is the main focus.
She brings it all together, really.
She does. And to a point where I kind of wish the film was more about her, and then it's about her dealing with what she's dealing with, and Barbie comes to life to help her, and we go from there.
Oh, that would be cool. That would work really well.
I think that would have been a better movie than this, but her performance is actually really good, even though I like the character, but there was a specific problem I had with the character. But I liked Ferrera's performance.
Well, it sounds like, too, you wanted like more of her, which I can see that being very positive in this film.
Her story is the heart of the story, I think, in this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
That's how I feel of America Ferrera. Okay, Kim, so what's your third point?
We kind of already touched upon it, but I really liked the back and forth of feminism versus patriarchy versus equals, right? And like how it seems like it was like an all or nothing in moments of this film, and then kind of making you really think we are equal people, right? We should all be equal people. Again, think piece, like our first point, I had to sleep on it, and then the very next day, today, it just hit home with me. I was just like, oh damn, like maybe our children should be watching this. I don't know. You know, like at first I was like, oh my God, I would never let my kids, like if I had kids, I'd never let them watch this. And now I'm like, maybe this is educational.
I think the film, what it does really in this movie is it shows the problems with our discourse about how extreme it's become. We have to believe wholly on one thing, and if we don't, we are an X, we're a bigot, we're a racist, we're whatever the fuck, you know. I think that this movie shows that really well, where all of these things have good points to it, but to believe wholly into that, like I think basic calling the men's part patriarchy is kind of a misnomer. What happens in Barbie Land is in a form patriarchy, but I don't think the film is actually trying to label as patriarchy as something positive. I think it's showing what exactly happens when someone's subjugated, and when they finally realize that, oh, wait a minute, I can have this, and then it turns around. That's not exactly patriarchy. But
they take it the wrong way. Like, you know, in the real world in the film, they talk about, he sees it differently. He sees it as patriarchy when it's really not fully patriarchy, because just because you're a man doesn't mean you can get the best job, or you know what I mean? Like, you still need a degree and you still need this. And like, he's just like, oh, you know, it's not just that.
But the way Ken is, it brilliantly shows and deconstructs the argument that has been going on for like a decade now. Okay. How certain people have just innate advantages and they get everything, when you not realize that, well, wait a minute, they had to do X, Y, and Z to get there. What exactly are you talking about here? It really shows that the problem with dealing in discourse in those extremes, because Barbie Land, again, is extreme feminism. And as much as a lot of people are like, oh, it's so great, others will look at it and goes, that's fucking awful. And then when...
It's kind of mean. You know what I mean? Like, it's mean to Ken. Like, poor Ken.
Right.
You know?
So what's interesting about the Kens is that they're a visual representation of what women think men think women should be. A lot of feminists and a lot of women, when they say that men, I guess, how they demean them, they treat them as childlike. They treat them as someone that needs a man to be whole. And this is the visual representation of that. And it's incredibly striking to me from some people who don't see that. It's like they don't see that the Kens are basically what you think men want women to be. And when they don't see that, they're like, oh, but this is how I want the world to be. Barbie Land is how it should be. They're self-reporting on themselves, saying like, oh, so you want men to be subjugated like this? Is that what you want? It's really interesting in that.
It is very interesting.
Like, I think the thing that I said to you last night, and I think I said in that comment, was I liked the opportunity of the conversations I had with people about this movie more than I actually liked this movie.
Yes.
So,
and you said that to me last night when we were chatting, and I said 110%.
Because I like this movie. I do. But on the other hand, and this is my movie snob coming out. Like, well, I will own this. It's not really that deep. It's got a lot of conversational things. It's got some depth to it. But compared to other films from, like, let's say, Chantal Akerman, Agnes Varda, and a bunch of other directors like that, this goes skin deep. But I think it's to its benefit that it does. If it went any deeper, you would have to get into some more complex notions that would probably not
would make the film dark.
Yes, because feminist movies, for the most part, turned very dark, and for good reason. Like, for very good reason. And if you were to go any darker than that, it would probably be something that maybe the Mattel Corp would not be comfortable with.
They would not be making any money.
You wouldn't want to, you wouldn't want to have Barbie as Jeanne Delman.
They didn't want to get too dark, and I think they did a good job at keeping it skin deep, and I think that was kind of its purpose too.
Yes, absolutely. And it's entertaining and it's funny, and it still keeps the movie entertaining while thinking, which is a huge plus to it. Like, I will give it that. So my third point is it's an example of a, wait, movies can do this type of movie. And what do I mean by that? There are certain films that I think film lovers like me, film buffs like me, really point to where a movie that we watch, after we watch it, we sit there and go, I didn't realize movies can do this. My movie's Fargo. Fargo is a movie where...
That's your favorite film, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, it still is to this day. This is a movie where I saw it with my parents when I was younger, and they couldn't sit through it. And they were like, I'm going to turn this off. I'm like, no, I'm watching this. And I was blown away by the movie. I thought it was an amazing movie. And because my movie diet at the time was comedies, Disney cartoons, and when my parents watched Wesley Snipes and Steven Seagal films. That was my movie diet. So when I watched those movies, I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. They're funny, they're entertaining, blah, 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 big deal. But when I was introduced to Fargo, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Movies can do this? They can make you think like this? They can make you think about things like this? They can subvert your expectations like this? How did I not know this? Holy shit. And that's where it went from me being like, I'll watch a movie every once in a while to watching 100 movies a year, trying to find what the best movie is and what makes me think that way. This is a gateway movie for a lot of people. I think specifically women, younger girls. When they watch this movie, this will probably be a movie that we'll look back on if they become movie buffs. They go like Fargo did for you. Yeah, like it will be. This is where it started. I watched Barbie thinking it was going to be this dumb comedy about girls and girl power stuff, and I was completely blown away by what it was. And
then I watched it more as an adult, and I was still really blown away.
Exactly. Absolutely. This is going to be a lot of younger people's film that does that for them. So, like, I think a lot of people will say something along the lines of The Godfather, Jaws, stuff like that, where they fall in love with films because of X movie. I think for a lot of young women, and maybe some guys too, this will be that movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was actually telling Wiz this morning, I was talking to my best friend about it, and her stepdaughter went to the theater with her mom to see it. And I said, oh, really? And I said, why? And I was like, I don't know if this is for kids, because my generation, this would be like a huge no-no. Like, what is going on? Like, you know, like nowadays kids, like, this is the norm. Like, they are all about, you know, equality, which is excellent, and just being in the know. Whereas when we were young, I feel like we were sheltered from a lot of that in like the, you know, 80s and 90s.
I think you're right. They know about it, but I don't think they quite understand it.
No, I don't think they quite understand it, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like, it's definitely not hurting them to take them to see the film.
No.
I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, not at all.
And then as they get older, they will realize like, oh wow, this does have a really profound meaning, and I do grasp it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a film that I think some adults can get that too, where they realize that films can do something like this, and they can enjoy it. I cannot tell you how many times where I tell somebody that I saw an 8-hour film about the Holocaust, and they go, why would you want to watch that? Why would you want to watch that? But if you tell someone what Barbie is actually about, you'll probably get the same questions, like, why would you want to watch something like that? Right. But if you watch it and then you experience it and you sit through it and think about it, you'll understand why. Because it makes you think about things, maybe not even in your life, but how things are perceived in your life too. And this is a movie that can definitely do that for people. So if you are a film lover and you want to get like a child or somebody involved in this, Barbie might be that gateway. So
yes. And not to kind of stray from your last point, but something I did want to point out, and I probably should have mentioned this prior, but I really like in the film how they kind of portray towards the end that obviously like a little bit more towards equals, but also that it's okay to change. Like, there's in the film there, you know, they talk about, you know, Barbie and how she was kind of like, you know, stereotypical Barbie, but like, you don't always have to be what people want you to be. Right. So I kind of liked that part of it too, but yeah. But
it's only stereotypical Barbie that has that change. The rest of them want it to be the way it was, or they want it the way they want it. And
it just shows like, starts with one person, right? Like,
right. Okay, Kim, so who do you recommend this for?
I have to say it. I do recommend it for feminists. Like, it is a pretty feminine-driven movie, but that doesn't mean that's the only people that I would recommend it for. I just think it just stood out to me that it is just very like girl power, you know, and at least in the beginning of the film. I also just feel like it's for women in general, just because it's friggin' Barbie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that you're drawn to that brand, and like us as, you know, in our 30s, 40s, like I was telling Wiz, I have 3 tubs of Barbie still in my basement from when I was a kid, you know, like it's just what we knew. Like I say feminist, but I kind of say that lightly. It's more just like women in general. And then obviously, as we talked about, like those that want to think right? This is definitely a thinking piece, and it's probably going to stay with you for a few days after, too, as it is with me. I've been thinking about this film a lot. Yeah, I think children could see this. Children probably ages 10 and up. I don't know if they're more on the lower end of the age group. I don't know if they're going to fully understand it. But I think eventually, like, they would like the fun, humorous side of it, the bright colors, the Barbies. But I think eventually it may sink in with them. And I think it could do a lot of good in the world, really. So, yeah, that's who I recommend it for.
Okay, and who do you not recommend it for?
Like, if your expectations for the film are just kind of like your general, like, Barbie and Ken, the way they were in the 50s through the 90s, kind of thinking of it as more like, oh, like, they're toys and they're fun and it's a fluff piece, because, like, that's what I thought of going into it. And at first I was pretty negative about the film, but I mean, still try it, if you want, but that's not what it is, right? That's what it portrays itself to be, but that's not what it is. I mean, maybe some men, like husbands, I don't know, like, my husband watched this film with me, and, like, he thought some parts were pretty humorous, but other than that, he was on his phone the whole time. Like, he could care less,
right.
Like, okay, whatever, like, it's cute. I kind of get what they're saying, but I don't really care. So maybe some men, but then other men too may really enjoy it. I don't know. It's just kind of what I've experienced with my husband.
I think this is really not meant to be a movie for men, but if they do watch it, there is stuff to enjoy in it, especially Ken.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a whole cottage industry of men who saw the movie and they love Ken. So I think that right there is just like, it shows...
Well, we got to get you the t-shirt.
Oh, God.
They have a whole line of t-shirts for men from this Barbie movie, so go Google it and you guys will see. It's pretty hilarious.
I told her I would ironically wear it and send her a picture.
I'm going to get it for him for his birthday. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Good Lord.
And I might even hand him out at my Christmas parties, too. Why not? It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. I recommend this for women who don't mind surprises. I think that if you are... definitely women, I agree that women would really like this film. But you have to bear in mind that it's not going to be what you think it is. So if you're okay with that, then go for it. People who like movies that make you think, I agree with you there. I think that it's a movie... Its prime directive is to make you think about things. It's not to entertain you. It is entertaining, but its number one point is to make you think, and you like satires. I mean, this film is not to be taken seriously. It is so broad in its comedy and how it thinks of things that it's meant to not be taken seriously. It's kind of shocking how many people take this seriously at times, but it's meant to be a satire. So if you like satires, go for it. Who do I not recommend this for? If you were expecting a standard Barbie movie, I mean... Yeah. If you grew up on those Barbie movies from like the 2000s and 90s that were like, oh, Barbie's in the magical land and there's fairies and stuff. She went
on vacation. She's at the beach. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not it. This is not what this movie is. And I would not recommend this if you just want simple, no-frills entertainment. It's not that. It really is not that. It's entertaining, but it's also... talking about some deep things. If you go into it thinking, I'm just going to turn my brain off and enjoy, I don't think that's going to happen.
You cannot turn your brain off with this film. I can tell you that right now, from experience.
Yeah. Okay, Kim, so do you recommend Barbie?
Overall, I do.
Okay. That's a change from last night, because you were kind of like...
last night I was like, oh, fuck no. This is not... This movie is, like, freaking me out. I can't even talk about it. And now I'm just like, yep, I slept on it. I let it set in, and I think it's a really good film, actually.
I will also recommend it. I think for a general audience and for an audience that's not used to this type of film, they can get a lot out of it, and they can possibly enjoy it if they're open to it. I think that's the key thing. They have to be open to it. Because if they're not open to it, they're going to have a polar reaction to it. Like, oh, God,
like
why?
I did last night. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am going to recommend it. I will say this, though. I know it comes off snobby when I say this, but it's not what I would have liked it to be. I recommend it, and I would like to know more of the conversations people have around it.
Yes.
Than anything else. I think it's a solid film. It's probably number 3 in my ranking of Greta Gerwig films, but also Greta Gerwig has not done a bad film at all yet. I think it's a good movie. It's a solid movie. Like, it's fine. It does what it needs to do. Yeah, I think it's a good movie. It proves its point. And it does what it's supposed to do. I wouldn't rank it up there with, like, The Greats or something that is made to be much more deep.
It's probably one of the best conversational piece movies, I guess you could say.
I think for a general audience, yes.
Yeah.
I think if we're
not a film buff like you.
I know. Like, I'll be like, well, it's not this 1980 Taiwanese film that I watched a few nights ago. No.
And then when you talk to me like that, I'm just like, what the fuck are you even talking about?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, Barbie. I'm like, oh, okay.
yeah, pretty much. Yes. If you don't watch movies like I do, like the foreign films, the older films, the more challenging films, then I think you're going to get a lot out of this. I think a lot of people will. I understand why people do think the way they do about this film. To me, it's skin deep on that one. But it's good. I do like it. So I recommend it.
Good.
Now, if you want my full review on this movie, you can go to my website at IamTheWiz.com. You'll have my full written review right on the site, along with a link to the video that has this review that you just listened to. Thank you for listening to this review. If you want to know what we're reviewing in the next couple of days, you can look on the screen right now to see what's coming up next. If you like what you heard, go ahead and leave a like on this video. If you want to discuss your opinion on the film or the review itself, please leave a comment. And if you want to hear more, subscribe to the channel. Thank you again for listening. I will talk to you next time.